Hey moviegoers, how's it going? I'm back, and this video will definitely get me excommunicated from the Civil War reenacting community, but guess what? I can't bite my tongue anymore. To my friends and fellow reenactors, I'm sorry, but it's true. Gettysburg is a bad movie. Unlike the previous two films I did, Goldfinger and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, where I said they weren't bad movies, but they weren't that good, well, this time, I'm straight up saying this movie isn't good. I don't like it. It's a bad movie, and here's why. I love history, and I love war movies. In fact, war movies are my favorite genre. The Civil War is one of my favorite things to study. All the people in my Civil War reenacting regiment told me I had to watch this movie because it's the best. There's not many Civil War movies that are modern, but this movie's cast is full of winners and superstars, honestly, an all-star cast. A 4-hour epic on the Battle of Gettysburg and great reviews and praise for its historical accuracy, I had to see this movie. It stars Tom Berenger as Lieutenant General Longstreet, and I love Tom Berenger. Platoon is number 3 on my top 10 movies. Martin Sheen as General Lee. When it comes to screen legends, it doesn't get any better than Martin Sheen. And Jeff Daniels as Joshua Chamberlain, with minor appearances from Sam Elliott and Ted Turner. The main cast is 2 war movie acting royalty and really popular actors. And, who is that guy again? Oh, yeah, that's right, James Bond. George Lazenby, the second actor to portray James Bond, is in this movie. The opening scene was great. The music blares up, it was all inspirational and exciting, and I was thrilled. After watching the movie, and it's 4.5 hours, by the way, disappointing, can't even begin to describe how much I really didn't like this movie. I've heard that the director is a huge Civil War buff, and this was a passion project that took years for him to make, and it honestly makes me upset that he put so little effort into something he was so passionate about. I know it must have been really hard to direct such a huge movie because all the extras were real reenactors who brought their own gear, but still, that just seems inexcusable. And since this movie's so long and, broken up by perspective and chronological order, I'm going to have to speak out of turn. Firstly, the music. At first, it was awesome, inspirational, and awe-inspiring, but it's played too much. It's played way too much. It gets annoying, and frankly, it's played at inappropriate times. The attack failed. Many died. Play glorious battle music. The wounded are groaning in pain and suffering. Play glorious battle music. The battle is lost, and the rebels lost 20,000 men. Play glorious battle music. And the scene in particular I'm thinking of, which was really annoying, was after Pickett's charge, where General Lee realized the battle is futile, he can't invade the North anymore, and so many of his soldiers died because of his foolish pride. The use of the glorious battle music is very inappropriate. And I may be overstepping by saying this or taking it too far, but frankly, I find it a little bit disrespectful to the memory of the dead soldiers. And the inspirational music playing in the middle of the scene takes away the drama and seriousness of the moment. Honestly, the way I feel about it is just shut up. Just shut up. Stop playing the music. I have a lot to talk about, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but that's how I feel about the music. The Battle of Gettysburg is the bloodiest battle fought on American soil, so the second thing that bothered me very much is how the battles weren't reflective of that. There isn't many bloody or graphic scenes. Many of the gunshot wounds sustained by the extras and the fight scenes were done in a way that wasn't convincing. Like the people would fall, but you don't see any blood or wounds or anything. Just people falling down. And the cannon fire wasn't done in a realistic way. After a shot was fired and hit some soldiers, all there was a plume of smoke and people falling down, not devastating wounds or serious trauma. And cannons are devastating weapons that cause brutal wounds, and it was portrayed in a lazy way. A movie that did that right was The Patriot. The Civil War was a brutal and horrible experience that caused ghastly injuries, and medicine wasn't advanced enough to treat the wounds caused by modern weaponry. So I feel cheated that the movie didn't portray the experience in a realistic way. And I know that most of the extras in the movie were real Civil War reenactors that brought their own gear and equipment, and most weren't even paid, but the filmmaker should have spent time and, more energy showing their wounds more. I brought this up to a friend one time, and his response was the laziest defense I've ever heard. Oh, that was done in a way so there would be a bigger audience for the film. Not a lot of people like gore. No, that's called lazy filmmaking. Tell that to Saving Private Ryan or Braveheart. War movies that show what it's really like to be in battle and real combat wounds. I'm not a psycho or anything, and I don't like seeing gore or people getting hurt, but if you're going to do a movie on the bloodiest battle on American soil, then you better show how devastating it was. There was minimal gore or wounds in this movie. Not only were the battle scenes not convincing, they weren't fun or exciting or any bit thrilling. It was cool hearing the high command strategy battle plan behind the lines, which was one of the things I actually did like about the movie, but the frontline action didn't do it for me at all. Partly in fault to the oversaturation of music, but I already touched on that. The only exception to this is the artillery barrage before Pickett's charge. Other than that, the combat wasn't entertaining. I didn't get the sense that it was telling a story, and I feel like the most iconic actions of the battle were kind of left out, like Devil's Den, There was no peach orchard. I could be wrong on that, but then again, I haven't seen the movie in a long time, and it is really long, but still. They did show Cemetery Ridge and a portion of Little Round Top, but I wasn't satisfied with the other parts of the battle that didn't get attention. Third, the acting was over-exaggerated and too sentimental. I love how this movie showed the war in a non-biased way, which makes the viewing experience more educational. Like, I love the scene where Lieutenant Thomas Chamberlain talks to the prisoners of war, and they both explain their reasons for fighting, and how there was misunderstanding on both sides, and it really gives a voice and a real point of view of why the South fought the war.
See you in hell, Billy Yank. See you in hell, Johnny Red.
But the cheesy, over-the-top philosophical scenes of the philosophy of war and why they're fighting just pissed me off. Some of the speeches were good, but the rest were preachy, and I didn't want to see that. And while I'm on the subject of acting, I know this doesn't fit with the topic, but some of the acting wasn't convincing enough. The scene where Longstreet tries to tell the spy about the assault on Cemetery Ridge, he tried to explain the futility of the attack and how it was suicidal to advance over a mile of open ground and most of his men were going to perish. I wasn't sold. I didn't get the feeling he was truly worried or stressed or in protest over the impending tragedy about to unfold. Also, this is historical fact that before Pickett's charge even commenced, that Lieutenant General Longstreet was so distraught and broken up over the plan, he couldn't physically bring himself to give the verbal order of attack, so all he could really do was reluctantly and barely nod, and the film's portrayal of that didn't live up to what I expected. It didn't show the raw emotion or the humanity of the moment. It could have been the best scene in the movie, the definitive scene which set the climax into motion, bringing it to a higher tension, but it didn't deliver. The only emotional and poignant scene done right, and this was done perfectly in the most cinematic way, was the real-life conversation after the attack on Cemetery Ridge failed, and General Lee told General Pickett to look to his division, and Pickett just looks at the camera, that zooms in, and he starts to cry and delivers the bombshell of a line.
General Lee, I have no division.
However, I will say, Martin Sheen never disappointed. I wanted to say that for the record. His performance was genius, and it was totally the best part of the movie. But other than that, the acting wasn't anything special. There's a few other things that bothered me, but those are the main ones I wanted to talk about. I wanted to like this movie. I really wanted to. Never once while watching this film did I get the feeling I was really seeing the Battle of Gettysburg. It's a poorly constructed film. You know, it's almost a curse. Every time I get excited for a movie, I end up hating it. It's a horrible cycle. I'm probably going to get a bunch of angry phone calls and nasty comments from friends and fellow history buffs, but those are my thoughts on the 1993 movie Gettysburg. If you disagree, which I guarantee a bunch of people will, comment below. If you think I missed anything, let me know. And as always, like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time on the next Unpopular Opinion.